10. That's a 6 on that dice.
Looks like one of those might be the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Judge dice. Focusing on the game here. Joseph is going to go first with his Unchained strategy. See what card he starts with.
He did happen to open the Shayama, not the Unchained monster you want in your opening hand, especially when your opening play is Tour Guide. Makes it a lot harder for you to do any of your lines particularly safely.
Does look like we have that Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Not sure if you want to stop the Tour Guide there. Chris thinking about it.
I mean, realistically, you just can't let Tour Guide resolve. He does have Infinite Impermanence. I think he's going to want to hold that in his hand as long as he can if he wants to just have something to interrupt the Caesar. Looks like, okay, Joseph might have the ability to play here. Does he have an Aruha? Oh, he does have Shavara. This is going to be enough to start getting his cards through. Going to be able to destroy the Escape. Escape is going to be able to summon an Unchained monster from the deck now. Ash Blossom already used here. Will Chris want to use the Impermanence in his hand on the Yama, or is he just going to conserve it for that Caesar?
Caesar is certainly the bigger threat there, stopping those special summons, but he may not want his opponent to be able to build up a bigger board, so it just kind of is about intuition, right? You've been in this tournament long enough, you played against all these different decks, so you kind of just know it or you don't. So let's see what happens here as...
So it's a Rakea from the deck off of the Escape here, which is going to be able to go after the additional trap cards in his hand, because I know he had another one. And also just, you know, allows his board to be a little bit safer here because he's going to be able to block something along the lines of Impermanence. So you're not likely to use Impermanence now, simply because Rakea will interact with that poorly for you. But we did see that Christopher also has a Dark Ruler in his hand, so we didn't even really need to use the Impermanence. But I think had he used the Impermanence, he would have been able to just prevent some of the follow-up, because you know if he gets access to Escape again, then you can set up a Rage multiple times with the Yama in the grave. But again, it's something we don't talk about enough when you have the Purrely strategies. You need to keep cards in hand because it's not free to play every Purrely spell.
No, it definitely comes with that cost. The Purrely Sleepy Memory is great for reimbursing that hand for all those discards, but you still have to have cards to discard. So every time you're using one of those cards from hand, you're actually discounting your own ability to discard for those Purrely Memories.
Joseph taking some time to think about his play. He wants to play around as many interruptions as possible. We see the Rakea on the field giving him some flexibility, but he's choosing to remove it right now. Going to go for the Aruha on the Rakea. Rakea is going to be able to trigger, summon a monster from deck or hand.
You set the Call 100 one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so just confirming that it is Abominable Chamber of the Unchained set. That is going to be able to summon a Unchained monster from the graveyard. But it looks like Sarama is hitting the field here. Sarama, I think... So it has a couple of options here. He hasn't used the effect of the chamber yet. Maybe he opts to destroy that so that he can reset the Escape, or he just destroys the Aruha that's already on the field. Because I think at this point you need to get access to Shayama somehow. So you might have to destroy the Aruha.
Well, he's only got one chance here, so he might end up having to push here. Obviously, it's only game one, and it's best 2 out of 3, but this is one of those moments where you might regret it later if you don't push hard, but you might also find out that you don't need to.
Yep, this makes a lot of sense. Using the Infinite Impermanence here, cutting off access to the Escape so you know you don't have infinite resources there, and then also just, you know, not trying to get the Aruha destroyed. Reasonably, you didn't want to deal with both trap cards in the scenario, and especially with the Aruha being able to summon the Shayama, able to make the full field at that point.
Take a look at the extra deck. Might be time for a Link summon here.
I mean, yeah, you want to at least summon Rage. But maybe you go Rage into SP?
Certainly would be good, but he's...
Actually, you cannot because Aruha was used in hand, so he is Fiend locked at the moment.
Oh, that is correct. So these 2 Fiends will become our Unchained Soul of Rage instead.
Not necessarily the ideal board. You don't really need Chamber and Rage on the field at the same time, but if Rage happens to be destroyed by some other means, that could be really useful to be able to summon it back.
Could also use it to link off its opponent's monster, depending on how this Purrely matchup goes. We have seen Purrely stall out before.
I mean, you imagine that something's going to deal with the Rage outright, so it's going to be rare that you get to just use its effect immediately, but that's what the Chamber is for, right? You get to bring it back as soon as something happens that would... force you to use the Rage, where like you have the option to immediately use it on summon. That's where you want to kind of use it.
Certainly will let you scope that out, but now we're going to activate My Friend Purrely. Joseph considering his face down cards before we even get a chance to pay those 500 life points.
Yeah, I don't know if he has an additional copy of Escape here. That would be really strong. It looks like he might, the way he's considering that other trap card. Yep, it's another copy of Escape. Yeah, and this is perfect. This is a great way to set up the chamber. He's going to be able to destroy that Rage, be able to go after the My Friend Purrely. He's going to be able to add back likely Sharvara from his graveyard to his hand, so he has even more flexibility. He's going to be able to go into Abominable Unchained Soul if he goes after the Sarama on his field at any point with that Sharvara, so he's able to keep Christopher off as many cards as possible.
This might be a difficult duel. There's not necessarily as many resources in Chris's hand that would kind of get things going. Obviously, that Dark Ruler no more is not doing a whole lot. But we haven't even gotten back to him because we're going to go ahead and resolve some effects here on Joseph's side.
All right, opting to use the Yama now to summon back that Rage it could potentially be detrimental here because it does play into Dark Ruler. But at least if Dark Ruler is used, you are able to easily just go Sharvara again on the Rage and then summon it back with Chamber, so you have some more flexibility there.
Taking a moment to think about which monsters we want to summon next, or if we want to use the Dark Ruler. Obviously, the Dark Ruler no more would be good, but just like we talked about early, every time you use a card, you have one less card to discard for those memories.
Yeah, Chris definitely sees that line. He knows all cards available right now. Purrely Street will be able to prevent the Rage from getting maximum value if he's able to put monsters on the field, but I saw his hand. He only has two, and one of them is Dark Ruler, and I don't think the other one, or one of them is a spell, but you have to make a choice here.
Definitely do. The road not taken may lead to victory.
I mean, realistically, you're not going to just activate Dark Ruler and do nothing, right? So you have
Probably
to
not.
activate that Pretty Memory. Summon another monster here. It won't be able to be targeted, so that's pretty good. But you will potentially lose out to an Abominable.
Taking a second. There's only two moves to make here. Heads or tails.
Okay, Chamber is going to be used immediately here to summon out that Rakea. Just having some even more flexibility in case he doesn't want to have to use the Sharvara immediately. Rakea can go after the Sarama. He'd be able to actually, oh, I see what he's doing here. He's actually going to use Abominable right now to go after the Purrely Street just to make sure Rage can get maximum value.
Absolutely. If the straight Purrely Street's no longer on the field, you can target those monsters the turn that they're summoned, and that would be a way to link those off before any Purrely shenanigans happened at all.
Especially since you know Chris only has two cards in hand.
Yep.
You know that you're going to be able to get the value here. I think this is an interesting position. He could have chained the Purrely spell in his hand to be able to summon Purrely from the deck. And then the Abominable would be chaining in response to the effect of the Purrely, which means Rage still can't target it. But not that it really matters. I think you're not actually going to care too much because nothing's going to interact with the actual search. And then Rage could have still used the Purrely after the fact as soon as Street is destroyed.
Absolutely. Well, Chris has to make this play now. So Purrely Pretty Memory activated.
Yep, going to give up that Dark Ruler no more.
Gorgeous copy of it for sure. Let's see what we're summoning. It's going to be Purrely.
Yep. My Friend Purrely was already used, so not really useful to go after that. So this is going to be really just forcibly trying to go after the one in the graveyard. I think you're able to add, you're able to add Purrely, so you can get an additional normal summon for value here. It doesn't have to use a Rage until the Purrely is activated at this point. But also, you might just do it anyway, simply because you want to have Little Knight for the Purrely, the regular Purrely. So, because there's nothing you can get off of singular Purrely that can do anything at this point.
Not yet, but at the same time, it's one of those things where we've seen some conservative play from Joseph's side. Chris has just have to play the cards he has, so we're going to take a look at the top three from using that Purrely effect, and a total whiff, and that's going to be the concession of game one.
I do see at least one Purrely and Solemn Judgment.
So he did switch possibly into those trap cards in a more defensive version of the Purrely deck.
Stand by me.
Yeah. I mean, this seems like a strong hand. He has access to My Friend. He has a couple of options with a Purrely as well. I mean, if Purrely hits, we haven't seen Purrely hit very often lately today.
We haven't. Poor little cat cannot find what it's looking for.
In fact, we're leading with My Friend, which takes away from the odds of going with Purrely, but I mean, Chris knows his odds pretty well. I think he has a more strict plan as to what he wants with the My Friend Purrely.
Definitely needs to get his game plan going. Just hasn't been able to do it yet so far, but at the beginning of this game, too, getting that My Friend Purrely, allowing him to reveal three, usually of the same card. Yep, Sleepy Memory, and hey, Sleepy Memory.
I mean, there was an option there for going for Delicious, you know, try and make a Noir turn one. But if you don't have the spells and traps for it, then you don't really necessarily want to do that.
No, it looks like he wants to go for the extra resources that we see whenever we get Pearl Leap and Sleepy Memory in the standby phase.
He does have access to Solemn Judgment to protect it from something along the lines of Book of Moon or Spellbound. Oh, it hit. We got a Happy Memory here, which is actually incredibly strong against Unchained. Well, I mean, it has a lot of uses against most decks, but against Unchained specifically, it's better to just keep it set because you can protect any card from being destroyed because you can use it as an interruption to protect those additional trap cards or whatever, so they won't get destroyed from Aruha or they just won't trigger.
It's always great when you have those unique matchups where a card you have that's just supposed to help your strategy is actually the counter to the deck you're playing, especially when you're this late in the tournament.
I've heard a lot of players say if you have access to 2 Happy Memory, it's better to just set them both and the Unchained deck just can't play.
That's true. If they can't destroy, they can't do what they plan to do. Not going to escape anywhere.
Looks like we're just going to rank up immediately with Purrely here. Going to use that Sleepy Memory.
Let's get that Noir on the field there. Not the big Noir, the little Noir.
Is he going to just have to activate that happiness? Like, it looks like he's considering it here.
Decided not to at the last second. No, we are going in.
Yeah, now it's going to be a question of whether he wants to summon or not. He's going to chain. He's going to be able to set that per leap.
So now it's 3 materials, counting up to 5.
Always right there on top.
Certainly easy to find.
I think he's considering he's going to discard the Purrely here to special summon.
What's going to be protected.
Yeah, the happy targeted the My Friend Purrely, just confirming as well.
It's just remembered.
So My Friend Purrely cannot be destroyed this turn as well as the next turn. And there is Purrely going to be able to use its effect, add another card here. It's going to add Stray Purrely Street.
And knowing that we already have Pearl Leap, that Stray Purrely Street is really going to help because next turn, no targeting on that monster.
Yeah, this is a very strong opening here. Near ideal, I'd say.
Well, Purrely fans, pray for your powered up deck, because this is actually how the deck is supposed to resolve. Purrely after Purrely, and here's another Sleepy Memory during the end phase.
You have a protection built in from the Solemn Judgment here, and then you also have the small protection of just having Purrely on the field means Herald of the Abyss makes you choose that monster with that type and attribute. You can just send the Purrely instead.
Yeah. No, absolutely a heads-up play there because Herald of the Abyss, it's really designed to make your opponent go ahead and send the card to the graveyard. So, you know, Purrely Noir, it might be unaffected by activated effects, but it's not unaffected by your opponent being made to send it to the graveyard. But since, again, just like you said, you've got that Purrely Noir, you can go ahead and protect it. Speaking of Purrely cards, looks like we are going to go ahead and use the Pearl Leap. We drew 2, and now we're about to draw 2 again.
Yep, every single copy of Sleepy is once per turn. And now, since you summoned a new monster on top of it, you can use them again. So that is 4 activations of Sleepy Memory for 4 cards drawn. And then there was at least one Nibiru drawn. So Nibiru and Ash Blossom sitting in Christopher's hand.
How many cards are there? 5.
It's a very strong position, having put 5 very powerful cards on the field. Good situational awareness and still having 5 cards in the hand.
All right, we're going to start off with Dark Contract from the gates here. Not necessarily anything that Christopher has to actually be worried about.
So we're adding to our hand our Vice King Requiem, the DDD strategy.
Remind me again, how much defense does Noir naturally have?
Ooh. It has so much defense when I see Happy Memory. I don't think I remember that off the top of my head. But luckily, we've got the Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron app to be able to check that at our leisure.
I want to say it's 2,800 so, without Delicious Memory anywhere near it, so it doesn't gain any stats. So
you would be correct. 2,800 it is.
Yeah, 1128. Okay. So I believe it's only 2 copies of Sleepy as well as a Happy under it. So not going to be massive here. You could just attempt to attack over it with the Deus Ex, the Machina X.
It's this effect that gives it the pop, right?
Yeah, that's that effect, yep.
But that'll just force the Noir to just go ahead and send it back to the bottom of the deck.
Certainly can't wait around to get destroyed by battle. Have to get its material sometime later.
I feel like I know what you have after that.
Chris may be using the powers of the Millennium Eye that he has tattooed onto him, thinking that he might know what is going to happen next.
Yep, so he's going to have to be really mindful about what he detaches here. Detaches the Happy as well as the Noir, which puts him at under 5 materials, but it looks like there is not a copy of Enemy Controller to try and take the Noir. But it wouldn't work anyway because there is a straight Purrely Street, and it was special summoned this turn, so it can't be targeted actually, so it's pretty safe here.
Definitely get to actually use those Xyz materials and not worry too hard because your card is safe.
So even though it can now be affected by card effects, it is still going to be protected from targeting by the straight Purrely Street. A copy of Forbidden Droplet would have gone a long way. But now we can normal summon Tour Guide.
Yeah, 4, right?
Yeah, 4 and
Considering what we're going to do, Joseph's got 4 cards in hand. Obviously, we did see the Ash Blossom and Nibiru earlier. He may want to hold out and just let the Nibiru happen. But he also could Ash Blossom right here. It'd be very strong to stop Torguide in its tracks.
At this point, you probably just want to be aggressive with the...
Solemn
Oh,
Judgment.
well, you know, never mind. That's aggressive for sure, using the Solemn Judgment on the tour guide.
So we got 40.
Wasting that normal summon and preventing anything from being on the field. That's a little bit better than negating the effect because, again, now there's not a monster on the field to destroy.
At this point, I believe what Chris's game plan is he's going to use every interaction he can with Noir to go after whatever he tries to destroy, via, whether it be Aruha, Rakea, or whatever. You're just going to use a prison on the Ash on the prison here.
And that is all she wrote.
They can feel it. This is their one shot to move on into the finals. They have to take this game.
Looks like Joseph's going to go first, crossing into the main phase.
Really considering his options here, not going straight away, so maybe not the easiest decision.
Activate Abomination's Prison.
Okay, so it's going to be Abomination's Prison. That usually means you have a lot of safety going through your plays, likely going to be something along the lines of Aruha, or maybe one of the trap cards to get started.
Haven't gotten a chance to see Christopher's hand yet, so we don't know if he's sitting on an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
There is the Aruha. Do we see a Drone Lockbird for some reason from Christopher? I imagine not so, but you never know.
Certainly would be interesting. But it looks like we're going right into setting a card face down.
Yeah, the very standard opening here, Aruha hit the set. It's going to be Escape, so we have access to Escape at least. Escape is likely going to... I suppose you can summon Shyama here. Yep, there's Shyama. Shyama going to be able to destroy the Aruha, going to be able to summon Sharvara from the deck.
All of a sudden, we have very quickly gotten to 2 level 6 monsters.
This line of play plays very tries to keep you as much advantage as soon as you can. You're putting the Shyama in the graveyard to fulfill more special summon ability, while also putting Sharvara in the graveyard so you can immediately set another of those Unchained spell traps. So now you'll have access to Chamber as well. And of course, Yama is going to be able to get you anything else you want.
Now, this could be a turn where Nibiru might be really important.
Yeah, but this is the line that allows you to protect yourself from Nibiru the most. So likely the Yama is going to add Sarama to hand so you can normal summon it, because you did start without having to do any of those normal summons. Okay, you're adding Sharvara, which means you probably already have Sarama in hand.
Makes sense if you're not going for that one of in the deck. Gonna go and present. Let's go ahead and get a little cut here. Find out what's going on next. Very deliberate, intentional play from Joseph here, just making sure that he's making every correct decision he can.
Shaman effect target.
Okay, no, he's going for Shyama here. Just immediately trying to special summon himself, going to be able to summon another monster from the deck with the effect of Chamber. There's going to be another Sharvara.
This feels like the point where we might intersect into our High Wave King Caesar. And there we go, we're opening up the overlay network.
Yeah, Chris didn't seem to have any kind of response here, so there is a Caesar in defense. Trying to play around maybe a Lightning Storm or so.
Possibly. Just don't want to take that chance again. Every moment's important here.
I see. He wanted to conserve the normal summon for Tour Guide. This is really interesting. Does he play Sangan?
Taking a roundabout look here, I don't see a Sangan.
Interesting. So not going to be doing any of those fancy plays right now. I wonder what he's trying to go for. He's going to try to summon... Yeah, so he's going to summon a Rakea. He can use Sharvara in his hand to destroy the Rakea and try to end on a much stronger field. Is he going for double Caesar? He might be going for double Caesar.
It would be very powerful. Obviously, you can use that effect multiple times per turn. Having 2 sets of them, that might be an incredible way to keep those Purrelys from ever doing what they're supposed to. Just taking a little look at the graveyard here.
Yep, there it is. He's going to be able to finally summon that Sarama. Sarama can likely go after the Rage and reset Chamber. Does he target the Chamber here?
Would imagine so. Certainly a masterclass of Unchained play. Everything getting to resolve, everything getting to go off. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Christopher has anything in his hand that would stop this prematurely.
No, he's going after Escape here.
Yep.
You're going to add back another Sharvara. Okay. Interesting. Just going to naturally make this field. It seems like a roundabout way of going through this, but now we finally have a Pot of Prosperity once you're going through so many cards in your deck.
It looks like we're about to see 6 more.
Now you're looking for that non-engine at this point, right? Or you probably would take another copy of Chamber.
I'll do Prosper 6.
Chris looks, I'm not really sure what that means.
Well, it looks like we got Infinite Impermanence, another Infinite Impermanence, 2 copies of Dark Contract with the Gate, a Droll and Lockbird.
Oh, you're taking the Mistaken Arrest. You're taking the Mistaken Arrest.
The Mistaken Arrest is huge here. Nice to be able to play Tour Guide and Mistaken Arrest in the same deck.
They're on the bus.
Taking a second here to think about it. The Mistaken Arrest is what he's going to take. We've talked about it throughout the tournament,
Every
but
time I add, you draw.
No, it's neither player can add cards until the end of the next turn.
It's similar to a Droll and Lockbird, but you can draw. And it works for 2 turns. So it will be stopping Joseph's turn on the following turn as well.
hey, but if you're already set up, that may not be the drawback you think it is.
I will send it back.
The biggest concern here is that you don't get the value from Caesar if you
That's the
activate
Unchained
this.
thing, right?
Because it's just a monster on the board hanging out with no summons to negate.
Well, no. More so not being able to add the Dark Contract because it blocks you as well.
Turn?
But I mean, that was going to happen with Droll anyway.
Anything?
Nothing in the draw phase.
No.
Yeah, Mistaken Arrest is not a card you typically use immediately. You want to wait until it trades up.
Christopher, I think, mistaking it for Shared Ride earlier, but no, it's Mistaken Arrest. Sengen is in trouble this time. Considering carefully his options, this is Purrely's last hope in the tournament, and also Christopher's.
I mean, still also Joseph's. No guarantee that he gets to steal this victory here.
But it is a strong and impressive board here, so Christopher's going to have to make some careful plays to get through it.
He does have that Harpy's Feather Duster. Yeah, he has a lot of powerful spells in his hand. The Enemy Controller as well as the Dark Star. Did I see a Dark Lord more? I don't think I did. Oh, yes, it is there in the corner.
So he's got everything he needs to turn this board basically just off.
But he has a Sharvara in hand. He unfortunately doesn't have Yama.
Well, Christopher will have to commit something to the board soon. We've certainly checked the graveyard. It's time to make a decision here, but it is a difficult one. Certainly can sympathize.
Okay, we're starting with the Duster. It's going to force out the Mistaken Arrest at the very least right now. The Escape is going to be able to summon a monster from the deck.
And Nathan Caldwell. And finally, Alexander Lopez. You have 2 minutes to come to the left side.
Joseph, think about if he's going to activate any of those cards in response.
He might not want to use the Mistaken Arrest if he doesn't have to, just so he can keep the follow-up available to him. But I think that's a little risky.
It's an important decision, but he is going to activate Mistaken Arrest.
Yep, has to be wary now that he's going to be under that restriction as well going into his next turn. Escape will be able to special summon another monster here. Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. He didn't end up using that Yama. So perfectly fine way to play through the Dark Ruler as well.
Well, from now on, neither player is going to be able to add cards from the deck to their hand because of that Mistaken Arrest. So,
It doesn't stop him from adding from the graveyard, right? Just to make sure.
taking a look at the text here, only the deck is restricted.
Cool. So really, only thing we're losing out on is going to be that Caesar for this moment.
2 in?
2 cards, yeah.
I wonder what you even want to summon with this right now. Maybe just an Aruha? Yeah, just an Aruha, just so you have access to Abominable from the Sharvara in your hand. So now you're likely going to force out the Dark Ruler as well.
You kind of have to do it. I mean, there's no other options here because all of those monsters are a threat to those precious Purrelys.
Yeah, and you do have straight Purrely Street as well as Enemy Controller to push through that. The Enemy Controller is going to be pivotal at dealing with the Rage here. But after that, it's just about having enough to actually do anything because you're still under that effect of Mistaken Arrest. You have the means to deal with the board, but you have the means to get started.
Well, we're going to have to start somewhere. Obviously, I feel like the Dark Ruler no more is no. Okay, we're not going to, but it does feel like what you have to start this turn off with if you're going to get anything done.
Well, now that I see the hand, it's my friend Purrely and Purrely, both really strong if they are able to resolve, but under Mistaken Arrest, they can't do anything, so Christopher Hands actually does nothing.
Might be trying to figure that out now, how he can possibly proceed. Doesn't normal summon the Purrely.
At this point, he knows that he doesn't have any way to progress his own game state. He just needs to force out all of Joseph's response in some way that benefits him, try to get him to use his cards in the least efficient way possible. Currently, he doesn't even have a way to actually deal with the Caesar. He's going to have to take the Caesar, which is going to force out the Sharvara.
No, I said normal.
Yeah.
So again, not even attempting to activate the effect. Christopher very aware of what Mistaken Arrest does. Taking a look again to confirm, but again, just not adding cards from the deck to the hand, which is one of Purrely's favorite things to do.
Looks like he's going to be activating that Dark Ruler finally here. That's going to be fine.
Definitely have to. No monster effects can be activated in response to this card, so there's probably not a lot we can do here.
Dosh's just going to say, okay. And now Christopher has to find a way to force out any of Joseph's cards.
How many cards are there? How many cards are there? Three.
Certainly a heads up from Joseph playing all of his monsters in defense mode. I think he was trying to avoid any Lightning Storm blowups. Only got half the Lightning Storm, though. We got the Feather Duster, not the Raigeki.
Yeah.
Chris knows he's in a rough situation here. He's trying to find some line, looks into the graveyard. Don't think it's there.
Taking another look at that graveyard. There's not really a lot of options here.
He's going to have to try to enemy controller take one of the opponent's monsters here, likely the Rage, so he can use the Rage, but that's going to be a trigger. That's going to trigger the Rage. Oh no, he's actually managed to force out a play from Joseph here because Joseph doesn't know that Chris doesn't have anything.
Trying to get the most mileage out of your Unchained monsters, but it is true that Christopher hasn't really started his turn yet effectively. Really only turning effects off, getting that monster on the board, but if you can't add those cards to your hand, you can't continue this duel, so see what he does next. Go ahead and sending out Aruha, destroying it, and bringing out Shavara.
So, Rakea already in the graveyard. I'm not sure what you want to summon here. Are you trying to summon Abominable? Seems very expensive at this point.
I would do Chain Link 1.
Oh, because he already has another copy of Rage in the grave, maybe, so that he's just going to summon it back now?
Certainly could be a way to do it. To a degree, Joseph's position is from the advantage, so he's just giving himself even more insurance that he gets to survive this turn and come back next turn.
And then Chain Link 2. Are we going to special Chain Link 1? Sorry. Chain Link 2 Yama targeting my Shavara.
All right, he's just going to summon another Shavara here. Very interesting. Not even wanting to actually keep a Rage live at this point. Going to summon out the Abominable. Going to summon out another Shavara. I wonder if Joseph's just being a little nervous here. Sees the mistake because like maybe he was trying to get the Rakea from, but he realized it's in the graveyard. Yep, going to give up an Ash. Yeah, I'm sure this was not what he intended.
I see.
So make sure you resolve that Yama here. You will need to summon that a second Shavara at this point. But yeah, this even if you chain enemy controller here, Unchained Abominable Soar does not target the card it destroys. So whatever you take will simply be destroyed instead.
It's a difficult decision for Chris. He's taking a look at that graveyard again, and yes, in Unchained there certainly are a lot of options, but at this point we've got to push the duel forward.
There should be, the Yama should be summoning that Shavara from the graveyard as well. The Shavara currently on the field was from the hand. So for what it's worth, while Shavara is on the field, he is locked into Fiends. So being able to summon Little Knight will not have been an option this turn anyway. Only while it's on the field anyway, but I don't think it's leaving out in his own control.
Certainly minimizes the importance of Unchained Soul of Rage, but also with the Dark Ruler no more, not a lot's happening on that end. Looks like we're going to activate enemy controller, enter the code left, right, AB to steal a monster.
Yeah, you're probably going to take the Caesar just to try to minimize value. Oh, no, you're going to take the soul here. It's just going to destroy itself at that point. Which, I don't know where you go from there with two cards that you can't do anything with.
Interesting, too, because Joseph's hand went right to the Caesar, almost like he was about to pass it over to Christopher, but Christopher did go for the alternative choice.
There we go. Whatever you want.
So make sure to resolve a soul here.
Down to just the last few cards for Christopher here. Definitely having an hour turn kind of moment, considering how many Unchained effects have resolved this turn, which is Christopher's turn.
I'm confused why. Yeah, Soul's destroying a soul. Yeah, that's enough. Joseph takes it. No, Chris knows he has no actual playable cards. You just wanted to